Come on in, family. Russia, along with President Putin, recently released iconic images from the 1400s that predate King James of 1600, showing all the biblical patriarchs, the Messiah, Christ, David, King David, that is, Solomon, Mary, and many more, all as being black. Also, in the year 1960 or 63, the Soviet Union, which is Russia, also released a cartoon showing or exposing European colonialism. We will cover the origins of the culture of ghetto, and we will research the original meaning of the word white. We have a lot to uncover. Let's get right into it. Fair use.
Vladimir Putin just showed the world that Jesus is a black man. Ivanov. I hope I didn't butcher that name, but
pay attention, family.
This is a book that is highly coveted by different circles because it has the black icons. It has the
Russian icons
of black people in places like Russia, in Italy, in places all over Europe. This book can range from $1,300 to $3,000. So it's not an easy book to get.
Obviously.
I actually borrowed this book from a friend.
Come on.
You know. But this book has a lot of interesting depictions in it. A lot of them pertaining to the Bible. Like right here, this is the Transfiguration of Christ.
Yahushua.
And you see it's black people in caves, I believe, what it looks like. It's black people in the whole picture, but this is knowledge that escapes black people.
Absolutely.
It's definitely something.
And Russia
that we would never see
in America,
or never hear about in the educational system.
Russia has always shown more respect to black people than any other European nation or culture.
Majoring in black history or world history, and they've never seen nothing like this before. At least not from the standpoint of Europe.
Correct.
This is the crucifixion of Christ, and in it we see angels, black angels. The people surrounding him are black.
Correct.
It's very interesting because the images that we see are contrary to what we have known our whole lives.
Yeah, because they whitewash the biblical images.
You know? Like I'll say it again, like these type of images of antiquity escape black people here in America, and I can say all people, in general, just people in general don't know. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of Caucasian people and people of all nationalities that don't know the extent that black people covered the earth. And in many cases, like here, like what you see, were in rulership position.
Correct. They were not always slaves.
Like this looks like a king.
As King David was. King David was a handsome black man as described in 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 12. His son Shlomo or Solomon in the book of Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5 and 6, describes King Solomon, David or Dawood's son, as being black. Then the Messiah, Yahushua, whom they calls Christ, is from the line of David, Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. And then in Luke chapter 1, verse 27, it says Christ, Yahushua, the Messiah, comes from the line of David or Dawood. Then in the book of Revelations chapter 1, verse 14, it describes the Messiah, Yahushua, whom they ignorantly call Jesus Christ, as being a black man, hair like wool, and feet as if they burned in a furnace. Revelations chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. So then in the book of Daniel, it describes the heavenly Father, Abba Yahuwah, as the Ancient of Days, and it says his hair, just like his son, is like wool, and feet as if they burned in a furnace. Daniel chapter 7, verse 9, Revelations chapter 1, verse 14 and 15 describe the heavenly Father Yahuwah and Yahushua as being black. The Davidic line in which Christ or the Messiah comes from is black. The Bible is black history, and the images that Russia are showing predate that of the whitewashing of colonialism and colonization.
The museum here, and the ones that we've been discussing so far, are very old, part of the ancient tradition of Russian iconography. Anyone who knows anything about icons will immediately recognize this image as the Trinity, or otherwise known as the Hospitality of Abraham of Andrei Rublev. This is not the original. The original is in Moscow in Russia, of course, but this is a wonderful replica that was commissioned by the museum to hang here in
That's right.
What we're looking at is three angels who visited,
or
three
Malachims,
strangers visited Abraham, and he showed them great hospitality, and they are seen as representing the three persons of the Trinity. And in this representation, we see Christ in the center, this band on his arm,
as described in Revelation chapter 1.
And something to note, that even though faintly reproduced here, because this is as they appear in the original, which is in Moscow, we have the tree and the mountain bowing down to their creator. And this reflects the hierarchy. And also,
pay attention.
If we look at the two figures, they're each looking at God the Father, because Andrei Rublev was a Russian, and we believe that the Spirit and the Son both proceed from the Father. Now, if I just show you another replica, we have here an icon, or a replica of an icon by another very famous iconographer. The Rublev dates from 1411, the original. This is by a Russian iconographer about 100 years later, called Dionysius. And the thing to notice about this, and once again the original is in Moscow, is the stylization is very distinctive. And it's based upon line with very little modeling. And it's almost as if he's just coloured in an outline, and that's very distinctive of the style of Dionysius. This is Christ in Majesty, one of the traditional images,
the Messiah,
in the iconographic tradition. This particular one was painted in the 16th century, and first of all, just look at the size.
Now that's during the time that King James lived,
high up. And people will have seen this from
which was translated in 1611, the King James Version Bible.
Original position. We have the four faces of the cherubim, which are described in the vision of Ezekiel, and we have an eagle, an angel,
Molochs,
a bull or an ox, here's the bull and the ox, and here's the lion. And as we know, these have come to represent the four evangelists, and the reason historically that the church chose to have four gospels was that each one corresponded to the four evangelists carrying the word of God out to the four corners of the world. And
Pay
of course,
attention.
that is our hope, to be in heaven with Christ and participating in the beatific vision. And so when we see Christ, we will know him, and everything is revealed, everything is shown.
Revelations chapter 1, 14 and 15.
Itself,
the Messiah is a black
the
man.
letters that are equivalent to, in whatever language is used, of I am who I am. In Greek, it might be the letters, which I think this is, of he who is, which of course is the same as Yahweh.
Yahuwah.
Always in the icon of Christ, the halo has the cross within it. So if you're ever uncertain as to who the figure is, you shouldn't be really, but if ever you are, and you see that cross in the halo, then you know that you're looking at the figure of Christ.
Look at them bowing down to a black Madonna, or Mary, I'm sorry. They know the truth. All of the biblical patriarchs were and are black. And they know it. The Creator's name is Yahuwah, Ahia, Asher, Ahia. I am that I am, or I am who I am. So put away all the pagan titles that they have given the Creator. They know the truth. The Bible is black history. And the Messiah's name is Yahushua, not Jesus. The letter J is just a little over 400 years old. Even Apostle Paul himself was a black man who was mistaken as an Egyptian in the book of Acts, chapter 21, verse 38. The Ancient of Days, the Creator, Yahuwah, in the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 9, has hair like wool and feet as if burned in a furnace. So the Creator above, Yahuwah Elohim, and his son, Yahushua, are melanated so-called black people, as was all of the biblical patriarchs. Revelations or Hazum chapter 4, verse 3. He who sat on the throne looked like jasper and sardis. Look at the color of jasper and sardis. It is ruddy brown, so-called black. Here's another picture. Look at the color of jasper and sardine or sardis. The Bible is black history that has been whitewashed. Think about it. In the book of Matthew chapter 2, around verse 13, Yahushua and his parents were fleeing because they sought to eradicate or kill the Messiah. And in Matthew chapter 2, verse 13, it said they fled down into Egypt. Egypt is Africa. Israel is on the continent of Africa. So Yahushua, whom they call Christ, ran into another land full of black people and blended in amongst the people. The Messiah, Yahushua, the disciples, the apostles, and the prophets all were black. And the non-melanated people, through the false pen of the scribe and the whitewashing of history, have been portraying themselves to be a people that they are not. King David or Daud was a black man. So was Solomon and all. And as I stated earlier in the video, the Messiah, Yahushua, Matthew 1:1, Luke 1:27, comes from the Davidic line. All the biblical patriarchs were black. Let us briefly deal with how they colonized not only America, but Africa. Look at this map. The yellow represents Belgium, the blue represents France, the green Germany, the lime green Italy, the off purple Portugal, the pink Spain, the coral color United Kingdom, and then the clear is independent. Look at how they came in through colonial empires and basically took over the continent of Africa. And remember, Israel or Jerusalem is a part of Africa. Don't let them deceive you with that Middle East stuff that was created by the Suez Canal, which is a man-made canal they dug out.
That treats colonialism not as an exotic
Pay attention to this cartoon, family, exposing
in the opening scene of The African Tale,
colonialism.
A joyful white elephant, symbolizing a colonial invader, grins broadly as it brings gift cigarettes and glossy magazines to a black man living alone in the African jungle. The scene is almost cheerful, but there's an unsettling edge. We know something is off.
This was done by Russia or the Soviet Union in the early 60s. Between 1960 and 1963.
In a medium where Western cartoons often mocked or caricatured Africans, the African Tale dared to show its black hero with dignity and depth. It raises a question that lingers. How did a short Soviet cartoon come to portray Africa's struggle so boldly?
It seems that Russia has always shown more reverence and respect for the melanated so-called black race than the rest of the Caucasian countries and people. Russia is one of the few countries being classified as white that has never enslaved black people.
Щедро давала она свои плоды ему, ибо трудился он на ней в поте лица своего, как трудились и отец его.
This was done by the Soviet Union between 1960 and 1963. The Shemitic and the Hamitic people are all from the continent of Africa. Africa is one of the most mineral-rich countries on the entire face of the planet. They have everything they need. And the colonial European powers came in and pillaged the country as they did America through the slaughtering of the Native American Indians. Respectfully, everywhere they go, they destroy and take over. Living peacefully in his land, not needing anything from anyone.
Но как-то раз
на земле человека появился некий гость.
The elephant represents colonial European powers. Pay attention. He's observing the land of Africa, how mineral rich it is. Look at him. Isn't that how they did the Native American Indians? Same thing. Peace pipe. So-called peace pipe. A leopard doesn't change his spots. They are doing the same thing to this day. Look at him, look at him. The elephant represents the European white colonial powers. Look at him. Watch the distraction. Look, here comes the distraction. Why would he need that when the melanated black woman is the Eve of Earth, the most beautiful woman on the planet? But look at the deception that he gives them. The elephant ate and gobbled up everything that he could. Look at him at the window, representing the European powers, and they do that to this day through cell phone technology, internet, smart TV, even in your vehicles. They are constantly monitoring you. Look, may I come in? It's raining out here. Look at the European powers. He allows him to come in, but look what happens. The European power comes in and kicks him out of his own home. Look at this. Are you surprised at the outcome, man? Mr. Elephant, now we'll explain everything to you. Come here. You see, man? Your black skin is thick and stronger than mine. That's true, genetically, and there is no room for two here. So stay outside and I will stay inside. Shaking my head, then he throws all the distractions to him, which was meaningless anyway, while taking his land, home, and resources. Kicks him off of his own land and home, and then wonders why the melanated so-called black man is upset.
This was the high noon of decolonization. In 1960 alone, 17 African nations won independence. By 1963, the year this cartoon premiered, Kenya had just shattered British colonial rule, electing Jomo Kenyatta, the former author of the story on which the film is based, as its president. Globally, the Cold War powers were vying for influence. The Soviet Union, which had formerly shown little interest in Africa, now saw an opening. The USSR took little interest before the 1950s, but decolonization of Africa offered opportunities to expand their influence. Soviet leaders publicly championed national liberation, offering aid and ideological support to anti-colonial propaganda was part of this. Posters and films celebrated African heroes and denounced Western imperialism. For example, a 1961 stamp proclaims freedom to the nations of Africa. By contrast, much of Western media at the time either ignored
and at
African
this time, with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X during this same period, so-called black people in America, through segregation and Jim Crow, was still fighting for equality, while Russia during the same time was uplifting black people. Make it make sense.
A modern viewer marvels that while Looney Tunes was still relying on minstrel show humor, this Soviet film depicts a black man as an actual human being.
Come on.
The setting a Soviet studio in Moscow seems unlikely for such a compassionate portrayal. This contrast is no accident. It reflects the Cold War narrative that framed the USSR as an ally of oppressed peoples in opposition to the West. As one researcher succinctly puts it, the cartoon reflects the struggle of a black man against colonizers for freedom and independence. And indeed it does, right from the very first frames. The story of the African tale is a concise fable drawn from a real African parable, The Gentleman of the Jungle by Jomo Kenyatta, written in 1938.
Now then, the elephant representing European powers, after slaughtering the people and taking over his land and home, takes him to his court system. And look at the elephant representing the European powers, and look, the lion, you dare slander my best friend? Put him on trial. And the rest of the animals represent other colonial powers and Europeans, and the black man, so-called black man, is being judged in a court system established by European powers. Look, man, you already suddenly under. Give the floor to the victim. Now he's in a European court system.
Уважаемые господа, я глубоко тронут вашим горячим желанием защитить меня от грубых нападок моего отсталого черного друга. Благодарю вас.
Crocodile, hyena are all representative of European powers.
Но, господа, прошу вас.
Please be lenient to the poor black man. The European power says, the white man. He needs to briefly. Then he say he gave him generous gifts. No, he didn't. He must give everything he has. Look at the black man. He like, I allowed you in my home and land. Rhino.
Безответственными протестами.
Do you see this? Even the lion represents the British white colonial powers, and the rest of the animals, the crocodile, the rhino, and the hyena, represents other European powers. So the black man is at the mercy of a judicial system that's unfair. Look at this, family. They scorning him after he's the one that's robbed and pillaged. Then look at him. We have on behalf of a high and reputable court the accusation. Man, listen to the court ruling. Lion, violent assault against, they always calls themselves Lord or barons. They find the so-called black man guilty.
Ведь господа звери известны как беспристрастные джентльмены, издавна самим Богом призваны охранять интересы низших.
They call the black man the lower race, and respectfully, they the savages that have taken over everything. But consider the backwardness and the savagery of a man. Isn't that what they call Indian savages after they destroyed and took their land? Allow him to build a new house, but for himself. After the elephant took his land, which represents the colonial powers, then it says the judges were kind. So they took his house and home and say, but hey, we'll let you go build another one. So he proceeds to build another one. Look at the rhino, which represents a colonial power. Soon as the black man, isn't that what they did at Black Wall Street and Lake Lanier? Every time blacks, so-called blacks, successfully build and establish the city or something, they come in and destroy it. In America, there are 9 successful black towns that have been turned into lakes, including Lake Lanier. We've all heard of Black Wall Street. Look at the colonial powers. Every time the black man or black woman builds or establishes something, they come in, take it, and destroy it. If they can't have it, they destroy it. A leopard does not change his spots. They continue to do the same thing to this day. And then call everyone else savages. They're the judicial system. They're the police. They're the military. The only way this can be stopped, family, is through divine intervention. The Creator says, if my people are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray. Look at the European powers. Everywhere they go, they gobble up the resources of the land. And they still do the same thing to this very day, but yet call everyone else savages. Abba Yahuwah intervened. Look at this, family.
A summary of the film's plot makes the allegory clear. A black man lives peacefully on his fruitful land. One day a white elephant arrives declaring, "What a rich land. I'm damn lucky to be the first of beasts here." He befriends the man, giving him a cigarette and glossy magazines, fetish objects of Western civilization. Distracted by these gifts, the man starts to enjoy high civilization, leafing through shiny ads and pinups, while the elephant gobbles up everything he could and occupied the owner's house.
They do the same thing to this day.
Appeals to a court of jungle
eat up the resources of the land.
At the trial, the white elephant brazenly demands that in exchange for his gifts, the man must give everything and make no fuss. The lion judge, the elephant's close ally, blames the man for slandering the elephant's best friend.
Wow.
Predictably, the court rules against the man. In fact, it declares him guilty, though backward, and perhaps deserving pity. The man is allowed to rebuild a new hut, but each time he erects one, it is immediately snatched by another colonizing beast. A rhinoceros playing a cardinal's role, a hyena the prosecutor, a crocodile the advocate, and so on. Finally, the man constructs a large communal hut. As all the animals crowd inside, squabbling for ownership, the man calmly sets fire to it, and in panic, the colonizers flee, scattered into the jungle. In the end, these narrative beats are loaded with symbolism.
Correct.
The animals are unmistakable stand-ins for European powers, each drawn with particular mannerisms. Even the name suggests it. The white elephant hints at a European colonial giant. The lion evokes British imperial majesty, etc. One letterbox reviewer captures it well. The film portrays all of Africa's major invaders as animals, with mannerisms so specific you can identify each country they represent. Crucially, the black man is never savage or infantilized.
Never.
He works the land by day, stands quietly by night, and displays patience, intelligence, and ultimately courage.
And they do the same thing to this day while calling everyone else savages, when it's really them. Slaughtering and taking over everything, then pointing the finger, using deception and deflection tactics, while everywhere they go, they pillage and take over everything. But the Creator above, Yahuwah Elohim, which is a melanated black man, Daniel 7:9, his eyes are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. And he sees all and he knows all. And in due time, he is coming on a chariot. They brought the children of Israel to the islands of the seas and Americas through the transatlantic slave trade, slaughtered millions of them, millions upon millions, and worked them for free for nearly 300 years on a land that was taken from the Native American Indians, slaughtering nearly 100 million Native American Indians and taking a land for free and pushing them on reservation camps. The scripture says, "Woe to a nation or city that is built upon bloodshed and iniquity." Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 12. And that's exactly how America, and not only America, but many of these colonial powers and nations were established through slave labor and taking over lands that were originally not theirs. Then what we're about to cover, the origin of the word white. And the people who classify themselves as white. In Old English, This is how white was originally spelled. W-I-G-H-T. Please research and look this up for yourself, the origin of the word white. And look at what it says here. Online, ethmonline. Look it up yourself, family. The origin of the word white. The word white comes from the Old English word white, which meant creature or being, is related to the Germanic word witch, meaning elf or goblin. The term white has several different meanings depending upon context. Creature or being in general, white can refer to any living creature, including humans, animals, or supernatural beings, ghosts or spirits. Mr. Henry Sweet, the man who taught the world on Old English, he lived between 1845 and 1912, and according to a dictionary that was published by Mr. Henry Sweet, under the word white, many of you will be surprised the original meaning. Before I show you, let me show you a picture of the source and Mr. Henry Sweet himself, the man who taught the world Old English. Mr. Henry Sweet is the author of the Student's Dictionary of Anglo-Saxon. And this is a picture of the cover of the dictionary that Mr. Henry Sweet authored. It's on page 206 of this dictionary, and you see it for yourself. White. What did it say? A thing, a creature, a spirit, a what? Why is the nature respectfully to take everything? You see it there on the bottom. Research this yourself, the origin of the word white. And the people who classify as such. There's more. Pay attention. Did you know, according to geneticists, that the people who classify as white, non-melanated, are the newest race of people on planet Earth? This was a study done by Penn State University. The work suggests that skin whitening mutation occurred by chance in a single individual after the first human exodus from Africa, when all people were brown skinned, different shades of black. You see, that person's offspring apparently thrived as humans moved northward into what is now Europe, helping give rise to the lightest of the world's races. At one time, the entire planet was black. Adam and Eve were black, and all other races outside of the black race have some form or percentage of Neanderthal in them. Respectfully, the black man and the black woman on planet Earth are the original humans. We are the original Adam and Eve. The San Bushmen of Africa are pure African people. They have light skin and get lots of sun. The San or Sun Bushmen hold the oldest DNA markers going back nearly 200,000 years. Look at the deep, ruddy African soil from which Adam was created. Adam means ruddy, red. And according to the Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary, ruddy is a word used to refer to the red or fair complexion in contrast to the dark skin of the Hebrews. And in the Black so-called black community really different shades of brown when you see a fair-skinned black woman or a fair-skinned black man called a light-skinned black man or a light-skinned black woman. They call them red bone. The Bible is black history. Did you know, according to a documentary called Demographic Winter, that all races on the planet outside of the black race are in a demographic decline, and that in order to maintain a race, you must have a minimum birth rate of 2.1%. And the majority of the European, not only European, this is taking place in Russia and all European nations, including America. This is even taking place in China and Vietnam. There is a decline in the birth rate, and they state in this documentary that by 2050 or sooner, the overwhelming majority of the planet will be melanated, so-called black, because anytime the birth rate drops below 2.1%, according to this documentary, it is irreplaceable. So the black man and black woman were the original people on planet Earth. As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. And this is not hatred, because I myself and anyone connected to this ministry, my family or group, we are Ahab and we love all people. I have another clip I would like to share with you from Tim Wise. Pay attention.
The whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies.
Come on.
Of what would become the United States. Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real, right? But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other.
Wow.
That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other. Before we figured out there were other people to kill, we just killed each other. Right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their ass right back.
Wow.
Right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count, that's why.
Come on.
And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, you know, in the colonies, the colonial elite looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants, who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up, and they were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to split these folks apart from one another, or they're going to rise up and take our stuff, right? Because after a while, these black folks who were enslaved Africans and these quote-unquote white folks who were poor Europeans are going to figure out they're all getting played by these rich people.
Wow.
Right? So ultimately, the rich figure out they got to come up with some way to get somebody in that group on their team. The easiest thing is to get the poor Europeans, right? Because at least they look like you. They sort of share some of the customs and the culture. So they all of a sudden create this thing called whiteness, and they say, now you're part of the club. Now we're going to let you testify in court, enter into contracts, vote, at least if you're a man, own a little bit of land, at least if you're a man, right? And we're going to get rid of indentured servitude, no more of that, because you're too good for that. And we're going to take the white men, now called white men, and put them on the slave patrol to keep black people in line. Give them a horse and a gun and a badge and make them feel big and powerful, right? They're still poor. They still don't have anything. They didn't pay the slave patrol well, right? Just exploited them, used them as a buffer between the elite.
And that's where the police come from, slave patrol. They use the poor whites to control the so-called blacks.
Where black and white got together to overthrow the elite, those stopped because the divide and conquer had begun to work.
Willie Lynch.
You could turn people against each other by telling those poor white folks they got to keep these black people in line. And so that divide and conquer gets initiated in the colonies.
And that's what's taking place right now.
Telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. Fast forward to the Civil War era. And you have, I'm from the South, right? My people, the elite in my part of the country, right, actually announced that the reason they wanted to break away from the Union and possibly go to
this
war
man to tell the truth
with their
in these
brothers and
times and
sisters
days.
to the north was in order to maintain slavery and white supremacy. They said that at the time. We lie about it now. And we say it had nothing to do with that. But of course, at the time, they didn't have any shame about it, so they just said it openly, right? The vice president of the Confederacy, Alexander Stephens, said that the cornerstone of the new government was the great truth that the Negro was not the equal of the white man. So that's the reason the Confederacy was formed and existed.
Negro comes from the word
trick.
negus,
if I'm rich
which
and I want
means
to go
king.
to war to protect my ownership in other human beings, my property, but you're poor and you don't own any enslaved people, why the hell would you go fight to protect my stuff?
Listen, this is what's going on now.
I'm not going to fight. Rich people don't go to war.
Listen.
Right? Rich people get poor people to go to war for them, whether it's in 1860 or whether it's during the 1960s or whether it's today, right? Rich folks get doctors to write notes for them that say that they have heel spurs and that's why they can't go to Vietnam. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you can Google that shit because he's sitting in the White House right now.
Woo.
Right? Oh, I can't go fight. I have heel spurs. Send some poor kids to do that for me, please. Right? So that's been a long-standing tradition. So the rich have to figure out a way to convince the poor to go fight for them. But that's a hard thing. That's like a hard sell, right? Like how the hell, why would you do that? Why would you go fight to protect my property rights when you don't own anything? The only way you would do it is if that rich person comes to you and says, hey, listen, you gotta go fight because we gotta maintain our way of life because if these people get free, they're gonna take your jobs. No, fool, they already got your job. That's how it works, right? Because if I'm white and I got to charge you $1 a day to work on the farm, but you can get a black person to do it for nothing because you own them, guess who got the job? Free got the job, right? So in a sense, poor white folks would have been better off joining with black folks to overthrow the slave system. That would have raised the wage floor of all working people. But they got tricked by rich white men telling them that their enemies were black and brown. Fast forward to the 1930s. And you have white labor leaders. They're not even the elite, right? The labor leaders are not the elite, but they're the elite within the labor movement. And even they had fallen for it at this point. So they didn't want to integrate their unions. And they would
look at the white redneck culture and the black redneck culture. They have a lot of the same values. They don't particularly respect education. They love Jesus. They use violence in their conflicts. And there's just, a lot of the same values and a lot of the same outcomes. And even ebonics, which is, black English, is actually all from the west of England.
Wow.
So it's actually this.
What?
It's from the west of England. So, for example, if you go to places like Cornwall, there used to be these amazing ads on British TV, right?
Listen.
For this Devon custard or whatever, and they would always say, Devon knows how they make it so creamy, and they all talk like this, right? And so it doesn't sound like black English, but they do say things like, I be doing that, and we be doing this, and you be doing that, and they be doing that. And so there's that use of that copula be, right? Where instead of saying I am, you are, he is, she is, they are, they just say I be, you be, we be.
1960, which would be almost 100 years after the end of slavery.
Please go research this man here.
Grew up in homes with only one parent.
He said that the ghetto culture was learned from poor whites. They taught the blacks that, and blacks are mimicking their culture.
That number had more than tripled.
Wake up. Please wake up. White, the newest race on planet Earth.
Nucleus, the new sun, radiates information and tells the cell how to operate, how to think, how to digest. That's melanin. Biology is the study of melanin and how it communicates.
Come on.
There's nothing else to study if you're going into the living sciences. Melanin plays a part in your historical memory. The more melanin you have, the more you're connected to your ancestors. You can pull on thoughts that you didn't even know were there because melanin gives you ancestral memory. That's based on melanin. That's how we classify races, based on their melanin content. It's not the quality of melanin in your skin we're talking about. Doesn't mean a light-skinned brother is less black than you are. We're talking about the melanin produced inside their body by the pineal gland. That's the melanin we measure. Every living thing has to have melanin. White people have it, but have a lesser amount. And their melanin is different from your melanin.
Wow.
Their melanin has sulfur in the middle, and your melanin has selenium in the middle. They're two different types of melanin that could not biologically come down the same tree. That's physiologically impossible for a white person to evolve from a black person. It's two different melanins. That's why every scientist says the theory of evolution. We never say it's a fact. Never. We say it's the theory of evolution. It's not a fact. Theories are something you need to just get through the day. I have a theory that I'm going to be a millionaire to get through a day, but I don't know. It's not the quality of melanin in your skin we're talking about. Doesn't mean a light-skinned brother is less black than you are. We're talking about the melanins produced inside their body by the pineal gland. That's the melanin we measure. Every living thing has to have melanin. White people have it, but have a lesser amount. And their melanin is different from
Don't allow them to use the divide and conquer tactics anymore.
Your melanin has selenium in the middle. They're two different types of melanin that could not biologically come down the same tree. That's physiologically impossible.
Read Deuteronomy 7 and Judges chapter 3.
Two different melanins.
Revelations 18:4. Come out from among them, my people, and be ye separate, says Yahuwah. I'm looking at the time, family. The Creator above, Yahuwah, instructs us to be at peace and to love all humanity. That's in the book of Romans chapter 12, the last 5 or 6 verses. And then 1 Corinthians chapter 13, Yahushua commands us to love all people, even those that hate us. And he says, in doing so, we shall heap coals of fire upon their head. Look, family, I'm out of time for the moment. There will be more to come. Like, share, and subscribe. Till next time, Elder O signing off. Shalom.